In the vast and rapidly evolving world of technology, learning to code has never been more important. Today, we're going to create a classic Hello World program using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This simple program has been a staple of the coding community for decades, serving as an introduction to the basics of programming. Welcome to our digital playground. Today we'll be using CodePen, an online code editor that's perfect for web developers who want to create, test, and share their projects without the hassle of setting up a local environment. Just head on over to https://codepen.io/pen and you're ready to start exploring the world of programming. HTML is the structure of a web page. It's like the skeleton of a website, and without it, there'd be no content to show. Let's start by creating the HTML structure for our program. We'll use a heading tag with the text Hello World and a button that we'll use to trigger our JavaScript code. To create the heading, we would use an h1 tag. We start with the less than symbol, followed by the tag name, which is h1, and close the opening tag with a greater than symbol. Then we add the text Hello World between the opening and closing tags. Finally, we close the tag with a less than and / symbol, followed by the tag name and a greater than symbol. Next, let's create a button tag. The button tag is used to create a clickable button on a web page. It can be used to trigger an action, such as submitting a form or running JavaScript code. To create a button tag, we use a similar structure to the h1 tag. We start with the opening tag. Then we add the text change color between the opening and closing tags. Finally, we close the tag. We have now created our very first web page with a text that says Hello World and a button that we can click to change its color. Awesome job on creating the HTML structure for your website. Now it's time to add some flair to it with CSS. CSS is what makes a web page look pretty. It's like makeup for websites. Here's the CSS code we'll be working with. The code consists of a CSS selector, in this case h1, and a set of CSS properties inside curly brackets. The CSS selector determines which HTML elements the properties will be applied to. In this case, the selector h1 targets all h1 elements on the page. The CSS property color sets the color of text. In this case, the value blue sets the color of all h1 elements to blue. And now, the fun part. JavaScript is the magic behind the scenes that makes a web page interactive. We'll use JavaScript to change the color of Hello World when the button is clicked. It's like the brain of a website. In this code, we are using JavaScript to change the color of a heading text when a button is clicked. The first two lines of the code use the document.querySelector method to select the first heading and the first button on the page. The heading and button variables store references to these elements. The next part of the code uses the button.addEventListener method to attach a click event to the button. When the button is clicked, the function inside the event listener will run and change the color of the heading text to red. The heading.style.color line sets the color of the heading text to red. The style property allows you to access and modify the CSS styles of an element, and the color property sets the color of the text. That's it. Now, every time the button is clicked, the heading text will change color from its original color to red. Awesome job! You've just added the ability to change the color of the heading text when the button is clicked. But what if we wanted to change the color back to blue when the button is clicked again? That's called a toggle, and it's a great way to add even more interactivity to your website. Here's the challenge. See if you can modify the code so that the heading text toggles from blue to red and back to blue every time the button is clicked. Remember to have fun with programming. It's a fascinating and rewarding field, and the more you learn, the more you'll be able to create. Stay curious, ask questions, and don't be afraid to experiment. See you on the next video.